Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we are back to work over on the steam Stoker engine, and today I want to get the Babbitt bearings poured for the second crosshead in here. We've already got the first one done. We just checked them out, made sure everything was good. I've got my top bronze bearings made to make sure everything's aligned right, so we're going to go ahead and get this thing knocked out and hopefully be able to kind of start working up on the front end of this engine a little bit. And up next is going to be probably dealing with the valves on it, but I need to get this knocked out. So let's get in here and do what it's going to take to get it done today. Let's get it done. Got you looking kind of down into the main case here, and I think the first thing I'm going to do is get my shop vac and just try to vacuum this thing out. There is a little bit of just stuff down in here where it's just gotten kind of dirty. It's been open in the shop, so I want to get it cleaned up. Also, I'm going to get a rag, and when we were working on the crankshaft back here, we oiled it pretty good, and there's some oil down here in the bottom that we need to get out of here before we put a lot of heat in here, because it's just going to burn out. So let me go ahead and I'm going to work on getting this cleaned up, and then we'll get ready to start getting this thing set up for this next job. So next, I made this little jig here, fixture to kind of hold this piston rod in position of where the actual piston rod will be. This is not the actual piston rod, but it's kind of mocking it up. It's got the right taper on here that will fit up onto the crosshead. And up in the front, I made some aluminum discs that are the same size as the cylinders to kind of just hold everything together. So when I pull this out, you can kind of see there the two cylinders, and then it goes up through the bushings here, and it just kind of helps with alignment. So I'm going to get all this put back in here. Spread my cylinders out a little bit. Put the back cylinder in. All right, that's again just to kind of align that front of the crosshead. So next, I'm going to take the actual crosshead, put it in here, and this is going to kind of hang off of this so that it's not on the bottom. This should hold everything up. We'll kind of slide it forward a little bit to position it where, in about the center of the stroke. That's close enough. And then the left to right needs to be aligned with the actual bearing back here. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble all of that so that everything is in its proper alignment. All right, let's see if we can get this together. So this strap will drop down on that bearing. And let's see, we're going to need to push this as far forward as we can go for the time being. Roll my crank back just a little bit here. I'm going to bring up my other bearing, and this will slide in like such. And then let's bring all this together. Of course, I throw my wrench on the ground. So I think that's going to be good. I'm not going to worry about putting the wedges in right now. I just need this more for alignment than anything else. We'll make sure that I got that left to right pretty well lined up like it needs it. But that is going to position this where I need for it to be. So basically we got the whole crosshead sitting on the piston, so it's aligned in the right position up and down, and the connecting rod will keep it in the right orientation, rotating on that front axis, and that leaves us with room up underneath it and on the sides for the Babbitt to go. So I think we're ready to get this thing ready to roll. I'm going to move the whole engine in there into the other shop over by my welding table where I usually melt Babbitt at and everything, and we'll get it set up for a pour. Let's move it over there. So if you remember from the previous one we did on these, we're basically going to pour a big block of a Babbitt that's going to be locked into the bottom of this crosshead. That Babbitt block will slide back and forth in this trough, and that will just be the guide that it goes on. So we need to basically dam all that up and keep the Babbitt where it needs to go. So I made some blocks for the last side, the other side that we did. Yeah, that's the way they go right there. I'm going to put one in the front and one in the back. I need to go check my original and see how long that needs to be to get those in the right position. And then there's also some guide bars that clamp in here that basically keep it from coming up. And I'm going to go ahead and get those clamped in place as well. But first, let me get those pieces on the bottom kind of positioned where they need to be. All right, that's got those positioned about where they need to be. It's just they're just real close to the front and the back. That's not a bearing edge on those fronts, so they're almost touching, but there's a little bit of a gap in there. And before I put the straps on, I'm going to put a little damming material in here because there is a little gap in here. I don't want the Babbitt to come out. I also want to get some behind this to make sure there's any gaps on the backside that doesn't just leak out everywhere. We got to make sure that Babbitt stays in there. So this is just some damming material. I use a product called Deacon Mold Pack. They used to use a product called Babbitt Right, but you can't really get it anymore. But it's a Play-Doh type consistency. It's heat resistant, and basically it just keeps that Babbitt, it just forms a dam where it can't get out. So I'm going to seal it up on both sides. Again, this is just to make sure there's any cracks around the bottom, and I'm also going to put a little layer on the top here for when we clamp down those bars, those guide bars. I'm just kind of flatten me out a little piece here. I'm going to just kind of fit down in here. Let me do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll bolt those pieces down. All right, that's kind of got that bar in the back. A couple of these bolts in place to kind of go ahead and get it clamped down. Okay. Go ahead and clamp this side down too. I will note that when I'm doing this, it's kind of squeezing that damming material out, but that's what I want to do. I want to have a nice tight fit in there. And that's down flush, that's good. And we're going to actually put some more in between here just to keep the Babbitt from escaping, so to speak. And I'm going to go ahead and put bolts in the other bolt holes too. Mainly make sure no Babbitt gets down in those holes, because we're going to have to bolt them down later on. So if I have a bolt down in there, the Babbitt can't get down in there to give me troubles later on. And I'm going to put some more damming material in between these rails just to really kind of form me a pouring basin. And to prevent any Babbitt from pouring out. Whenever I get up to above the top, we'll stop pouring, but I just want to make sure we don't pour Babbitt all open to the engine case. All right, I'm going to be using this ladle to pour with. So I'm just trying to see, I'm going to probably end up pouring right there because I can get in there. So I'm going to make a pouring basin around that to kind of catch everything. And we'll just do our whole pour up here in the front where we can get it in there. Just check here. I think I can do this. We're just going to be pouring that Babbitt in there. Last time I was able to pour it all on one side and it flowed around just fine once I got it hot enough. So I'm hoping it's not a problem. Last time I didn't have this connecting rod in the way, so I really had a lot more access to get in there, but we would need this for alignment, so we're going to leave it in here. Yeah, I think we're about ready. I'm going to probably put a little bit more damming material around here just to be on the safe side, but I think we're really close. I'm going to go ahead and get that finished up, and then we'll start putting some heat in here and getting our Babbitt melting. All right, I've got my Babbitt over there simmering on a camp stove. It's melting, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to start heating up the casting here to get ready to pour this. I did just shoot this with my infrared thermometer while it was cold. It was about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm just going to start with a big rosebud tip, heating up this casting, and this is going to take a while. There's a lot of mass here, and we got to get it up. Really would like to get it up around 300-400 degrees. Babbitt's going to melt somewhere around, well, I don't know, probably about 300 degrees would be where I want to go for. Babbitt's going to typically melt between 600 and 700 degrees. I like to have my casting preheated so that when you pour it in there, it doesn't cool too fast. So we'll just kind of slowly heat this up, and we'll bring you guys back here in a little bit once we kind of get it up to temperature. This is probably going to be a 15-20 minute process just getting the heat in here. We are ready for the pour. I've got my parts up to temperature. We're just going to introduce the Babbitt down here and just kind of let it flow down into that cavity. And there we go. I see Babbitt coming up on both sides, so I think we're there. And it looks like a successful pour, at least from the top. So now the job is we're just going to let this cool down, and we'll take it apart and check it out. I can see Babbitt at least up to the level of the guides, which is about how high I wanted it to go. I'm always concerned when I do this, you know, if it's too cold down in there, it'll freeze up before it comes over here. But I mean, it's still liquid right now. We had plenty of heat in there. It was up around, I actually had it a little bit hotter than what I said. I had it up close to about 400 degrees. And that looks like it was probably a good number. So this is gonna take a couple hours. There's a lot of mass in here. It's gonna take a couple hours to cool off. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm about to go to lunch right now, and we'll check this out. Maybe tomorrow. I'll probably just let it cool down until tomorrow. So it is the next day, and we've let this cool down, and we're ready to go ahead and take it back out. And I'm gonna have to do some scraping on the Babbitt down there to get it all to work right. And I think what I want to do is go ahead and, get all this put back together, get both of my crossheads installed. I don't know if I'll get all that done in this video, but I would like to, and operating like they should. Let's work on getting this apart right now. All right, so now I need to get this bearing back off the back here. See if I can kind of just pull it apart here. Here we go. Get my piston rod kind of out of there. From the top, again, the Babbitt pour looks pretty good, so you just need to kind of get it pried out of there. When this it's tight in there now, plus we got these spacers on the end that are just damming, holding it up. All that's just kind of holding it in place. Once we scrape it a little bit, it should break on loose here. Let me so I can kind of get these blocks out from back here. There's that one. All right, let's get that one out. There it comes. There we go, got it out. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of disassemble the connecting rod out of here. Make this a little more manageable. And we got some cleanup work to do here. I'm going to probably just take a file and kind of knock all these little sharp edges and corners off. I got some damming material that's kind of stuck in here. I'll get a little pick and pick that out. And once I get this cleaned up, we'll take it and scrape the sides so that they'll be ready to give a little clearance room and oil room in there. Let me go grab a file and a pick and I'll start getting that cleaned up. Hit the bottom of this. I got it up here. We're just going to put a scraping pattern on here, just a cross hatch. This will just kind of take off a little bit of material to make that thing slide a little bit better in there. It'll also give some oil retention areas. So we're just going to do this blind. If we find it still tight, we might glue it up and figure out where we need to take off some more. But on the last one, this is all it took. So I think this will be good. All right, that's got that surface scraped. I'm going to do the sides and probably the top little shelves too that run up underneath that bar, and we'll go check it out. So after scraping these, I'm going to drop them in place, and that slides back and forth. Very nice, and we don't even have any oil in there yet, so not really any side-to-side play. So I think these are ready to go back together and try to get this engine put in with all the bearings in place. So let me go ahead and get started on that. So before we start putting this together, I did go around and try to clean this up really, really well. I took an air hose and blew out all the holes. Took my shop vacuum, vacuumed everything up as well as I could, and just trying to make sure we're getting all the junk that's in the bottom of this, dust mostly, dirt, grime, whatever, just trying to get it on out of here. So I think we got it pretty clean. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start assembling this. I don't know of a reason why I'm going to have to put heat back in here again. So I am going to go ahead and put a little oil as we're putting this together. This is just some motor oil. And I just want to put a little oil down in that bottom. And drop our crosshead down in here. And let's slide this back together. All right, that's got that kind of closed up on there. So these bearings are adjusted and tightened with a wedge system. There's two wedges that go down through here and kind of interact with one another. We need to get those installed. The first wedge just kind of hangs in here, kind of like such. And then there's a second wedge in the front that goes down, and there's a adjustable screw here nut that you can use to tighten it up. Later on, I'm going to come back and put Loctite in these, but right now I just kind of want to get these going. Let me look and see. That's actually pretty good right there. For right now, we'll have to adjust all these at a later date, but for right now, I'm going to go ahead and put a little oil down in this journal. A little oil down in that bearing, and also go ahead and put a little oil in the crankshaft itself. I don't have the guide rails in there yet, but I do want to just kind of see how this is going to roll through the motion. Yeah, that looks good. All right, let me get the guides installed there. So we got new guide bars here that were machined and ready to go in here. This is the original one. You can see it is pretty rusty, crusty. I really didn't want to use that because of all the pitting that was in it. So Quinn over at Blondie Hacks YouTube channel, she actually made these quite some time ago, and they've been sitting here just kind of waiting to go. So I want to just again give her recognition for knocking this out for us on this project. Did a great job, and these are ready to go back in. So we're going to go ahead and get these kind of positioned down here where they go, and we will get them in place. So one thing to note here on these is that instead of using bolts, they use studs and nuts to hold them in place. And I don't know if there's a specific reason for that or what, but that's what we're going to go back with. So let me figure out what hardware we need, and let me go round that up. According to my documentation, these takes a 5/8 by 2.5 stud. And again, this is all going to have to come back out. When I put them together for the final time, I will put Loctite down in the bottom of these. But for right now, we're just going to kind of put them on. And then we've got our nuts. That'll go down top of this and clamp it all down. I'd be willing to bet there's torque specifications for those bolts, but they're not in my book that I have. I don't know what they are, so right now I just want to kind of get it together. Let's make sure this rolls through the motions, nothing tightened up in there. So let's check it out. I can tell it's a little bit loose in the bearing here. We'll tighten up our bearing right here. We're just moving that wedge down. And I can feel it right there. It kind of goes to top dead center and comes off of it. There's still just a little bit of looseness in it, so let me tighten it up just a little bit more. This should have 2 jam nuts. I'm gonna have to get some different nuts for it. I don't think I've got. Let me look and see if I got any 1/2-inch jam nuts. All right, that's a little bit tighter than what I would want, I think, but that's real close. Let me look and see if I got some jam nuts. All right, I don't have any more jam nuts. I don't have any jam nuts in 1/2-inch 13. I'll get some ordered. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side, get it put in here, and we'll try them both out together. All right. Well, guys, I think we've got this thing together and it's spinning around. It's a little tight in a couple places. I'm sure it just needs to wear in. We might need to make a few adjustments to bearings and stuff as we continue on with this. But that is working very nice. So one thing to note here, this engine is what they call quartered. It's a 2-cylinder steam engine. Unlike a gas engine or diesel engine, internal combustion engine, where you have the fire in the top of the piston and it pushes down on that stroke and only pushes in one direction. On a steam engine, the steam actually acts on both sides of the piston. So it actually is pushing in and then they'll push the piston back out. So it's double acting. Every stroke you've got 2 power strokes. When you have a 2-cylinder steam engine such as this, they do what they call quarter them. So basically this crankshaft is at 90 degrees of this crankshaft. When this piston is at top dead center or bottom dead center, in this case we're at bottom dead center, this piston is going to be in mid-stroke. So it's got action going on there. And what that does is it assures that there's no dead spot. With steam, when the piston is at the very top dead center or bottom dead center, if the engine stops in that position and you have to try to start the engine, it won't start. You kind of have to move it forward a little bit to give it a little bit of room for that steam to expand in there. But with this type of setup, this one's always going to be in mid-stroke, so whenever you turn it on, the steam's going to have room to expand. Then, of course, as this one moves down, it'll start expanding on it as well. So anyway, just a little bit about steam engines, a little bit different than an internal combustion engine. I think I am very happy with this, and we're ready to kind of move forward, I think, on the next step on this steam engine, which I think is going to be starting to work on the valves. And to do that, we're going to have to take the head off and start doing some work up there. You see the 2 straps here. There's eccentric straps. These are basically what will control the valve up in the head of the engine. So there's 2 straps that come in on this that go up to the front, and that's what slides the slide valve back and forth that lets the steam, ports the steam into either side of the cylinder. but kind of getting ahead of myself. But that's kind of my next step, is to get up there and start working on that part of it. And then we'll have to get the pistons, piston rods, piston rings, all that installed. But we are moving forward. Well, big step forward today on this project. Very happy to finally get it to this point, and very happy to be kind of moving on to something new and different. Like I said, we're going to be working on the valves next, and we got to work on the steam chest, which is, again, where the valves are going to be going back and forth. We've got some unique difficulties, some unique challenges we're going to have to be working on this. We're going to have to make new sleeves to go up into these into the steam chest, because the original sleeves that are in there were just really in bad shape. We do already have them out. I've got to machine new ones, and it is going to be a challenge. It is going to be a big challenge, and we're going to have some good machining fun as we move forward in that, and that will be coming up here very soon. Guys, but for today, that is going to be a wrap. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and those comments, I say it every time, please do that. It really does help out a bunch. Big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube memberships. Again, I say it every time, but it is important, and we really do appreciate those that do that. And with that, guys, I am going to get out of here. We'll catch you on the next video. Again, as always, thanks for watching.